Welcome to the RSP NFL Lens. I'm Matt Waldman with the Rookie Scouting Portfolio. Today we're going to take a look at second-year pro Quentin Johnston, number one with the LA Chargers. He makes the first man miss here on this little throw out. And we're going to talk about what he's doing right now to have some success with the Chargers. And we're going to use it to underscore the talk about what scouting is all about. Evaluating talent, projecting talent, and then projecting fit with the team. Because it's not just about what they did at TCU in terms of results or their current state of athletic ability or technical skills, but how they can potentially transform their game to become a better player, a more refined, accomplished player, where they may not, and finding the fit that really leverages their tools. And you can see here, this is one of those examples. Him facing the quarterback, no contested catches, giving him a chance to make the first man miss. I know it's only a 3-yard gain, but we'll see better examples of this as well as we go forward. One of the things that happened at TCU that people really loved about Johnston, saw him as maybe a special primary wide receiver, is his ability to win vertical routes. But they conflated that ability to get in front of a defender like this and catch a ball where he's ahead of the defender and make the adjustment with contested catches where he has to take an underthrown ball, leap back towards the target, and win versus contact up, around, or through a defender. That's not the strength of his game. But he can track the ball over his shoulder just fine, as long as he doesn't have to track when to stop and perform a jump up and through an attack using the correct hand position. But here, what you're seeing is, look at how tight his hands are together, extending for this ball with the defender on his back hip. That's something that you want to see, is that he's not clap attacking targets. And look how he reaches for that ball and makes a nice, tight, technique-oriented catch, underhand position, away from his frame with the defender on his inside hip and shoulder. And he's able to retract that quickly because of the fact that he uses that technique. You want to extend so that your hands are close together when the ball arrives. Now, it would be ideal, though it's difficult, to have your hands together when you initially extend, so that you don't have to clap onto the ball. But he gets his hands together before the ball arrives so that he can use his fingertips and then pull the ball in. And watch how he embraces that fall with the defender on his hip. He doesn't land on the ball. He turns his frame and has the ball in his left arm so that he can land on his right side. Good work by Quentin Johnston. And that catch was an improvement from what you maybe saw last year, just that he was using tighter hand position. Now, it doesn't mean that he's completely out of the woods yet with technique. You know, when you have simpler throws or simpler targets like this one, where he settles into a wide open zone and the ball arrives at the numbers, he's still having flaws with how he uses his hands. It's kind of an underhand position, brings it tighter to his chest. Let's take a look at it from here, see if we can get a better look at it. It's probably better to look at it where we had it. Hands are a little away from his frame, but it's kind of an underhand position high, where you'd rather see him use overhand position with his arms away from his frame. And when guys have easy targets like this that are not contested, you can tell how well they've ingrained the way to attack a football, because what's the natural thing he's doing? He's not using the correct technique here. But over time, maybe he will. And he caught the ball, that's fine. But you can see where he went, where he had drops. It had to do with how he attacks the ball. You can see that it's still a work in progress. He had a good attack of the touchdown that we showed up the boundary, where it was low and he had his arms extended and didn't try to trap it. This one he kind of traps. One of the differences between what the previous Chargers coaching regime used and what Jim Harbaugh and Jim Roman's regime is using is they're involving Johnson, at least in the first two games, on more hitches, at least from a percentage of what he runs. Last year, 13% of his routes were hitches. This year, 25% thus far after 2 games. Now, this may change enough that this 11 or almost 12% change may not be as big once things even out. But they're trying to get him involved in ways in the shorter passing game. That's something that we're seeing for sure, is that in routes that are more than 6 yards, they're down 6%. Routes that are more than from 10 to 19 yards, they're down 5%. And routes of 20 or plus yards, down 3%. And he's seen an increase of routes 1 to 5 yards from the line of scrimmage, an increase of those routes at 15%. He does a good job of being able to work across the field here when the first route doesn't come open to make the catch. But they want to use him in the underneath passing game. They want to get him on the run when they can, and they want to put him in situations where he can catch the ball without having to worry about tracking while he has obstacles while he's airborne. And again, part of this is product of what's going on in the NFL, where they're spreading the field more against defenses, trying to get quick hitting plays, extensions of the run game, and you can certainly use Johnston in that respect. Still, there are plays where they are trying to use Johnston the way he was used at TCU. And that means that they're probably confident in that Johnston is doing the work to get better with attacking the ball. Now, this is a drop, and it's maybe not even a drop. It qualifies as an incomplete pass because this ball is probably going to be out of bounds no matter what happens. We're going to watch it as it develops on the left side. And you can see here that as he's airborne to catch this ball, he's well out of bounds before his feet land. There's no way he's going to get back in. But what I like about this play is the attack. See how he goes up for the ball, hands over. You can see the two gloves, they're overhand position. Maybe not as tight as you'd like immediately, but it's getting better. There's not going to be as much of a clap. And he generally gets his hands on it, but it gets knocked away and knocked loose by the defender as he's falling towards the boundary. So, but still, the fact that he's using his hands here to high point rather than wait for the ball with underhand position where he's coming over the top of the defender, but he doesn't have his arms extended all the way and early, it means he's jumping earlier so that he can high point rather than waiting till later and trying to leap but have the ball more at chest level and using underhand position where the defender has a better chance of getting rid of the ball. With this, it's well out of bounds, but the next thing you'd like to see is being able to jump back and make the turn as he secures it to prevent the defender from being able to knock it loose. But you're seeing some, developmental progress here, even if the results didn't show up on this play. Still, one thing that we know for sure, get him in open space, and look at the attack there. That's a good attack. Earliest point, arms away from his body, overhand position, thumbs pretty tight together so he can just catch that ball with his fingertips. That's what you want to see. You weren't always seeing that at TCU. You weren't always seeing that as a rookie. I think he's working at his craft here. And it may not be this year where he perfects it, maybe not even next year. But he's working on it to get better. And that's a good sign. I mean, good enough sign that I think combining what he does well, catching the ball and giving him a chance to get yards after the catch, what he does with route running in the short and certain areas of the intermediate field, and allowing him to use his size and speed to at least get past defenders on vertical routes and track over his shoulder. There's a lot that you can still do with Quentin Johnston now that he's improving his attack and working out so he can become a more consistent pass catcher in easy and difficult situations. And some of the drops that he had last year, some of them were just that it's a product of overthinking everything that's going on an NFL field, having to be on the same page with the quarterback with coverage, different plays and routes, a higher volume of them. Your bandwidth starts to be tested, and you start to make mistakes with things you don't make mistakes with before because you're overthinking, and then technique that you had established kind of deteriorates until you really get a grasp of the new material, and then the old material that started to deteriorate settles down, and it becomes ingrained again. It's just part of the learning process if you really pay attention to that. And so this is promising for Quentin Johnston. Here's another hitch for Johnston in the zone. Makes first man miss. 4 yards after the catch. That's not bad. Again, this is a quick hitting offense that they want to run. But he settles in the zone well. And he has the speed that that if you're playing off him, you got to respect the deep. And the defender does turn his hips there during the stem. Attacks at the earliest window, overhand position. Spins away from the defender. Good awareness there. Jab step, avoids the second defender. Bounces off a hit. Good work. And when you attack the ball at the earliest window, you can control it faster so that when contact arrives, even if it's just slight contact, it doesn't disrupt your catch process. You can get downhill, and he's always been strong at shedding tackles, making people miss. So again, this is a 12-yard run after the catch, 16-yard game, moves the chains. Looking good. Things are firming up for him. So at this rate, from what we're seeing from Johnston, there's a good chance that he could lead the LA Chargers in receiving yards or in catches this year. Maybe he even challenges for the touchdown lead with this group because of the way they're using him. He's a dynamic athlete. I would not be surprised at all if he and Ladd McConkey are the two receiving leaders on the squad, and that Josh Palmer winds up not quite the leader that people thought he would be in this group. There's enough versatility with Johnston that he doesn't have to be like the far and away primary next Julio Jones type of option. He isn't that, at least not yet. But the fact that he's working at it and you're seeing progress, he's not a player I would write off. And I think that collectively people wrote off Johnston because of the tracking issues, and it is very difficult to fix. I don't know if he's ever going to get better at some of these, jump ball contested catch plays that you see primaries get on deep fades and go routes and back shoulders and things like that. But I do think he can do enough of other things that he can still be a 60, 70, 80 catch receiver, maybe more, depending whether they use him in the slot or work him a lot over the middle in a high volume passing offense. Thanks again for watching. For more RSP NFL Lens videos and RSP Film Room videos on college prospects, check out my YouTube channel, Matt Waldman's RSP Film Room, and my site, www.mattwaldmanrsp.com.